Welcome back to more FPL content. This will be the best wildcard team for GW25. Arsenal are top of the clean sheet odds with a 62% probability against Sunderland at home. The Black Cats are bottom of all Premier League clubs this weekend with an 11% chance of keeping a clean sheet at the Emirates. But in terms of the top six, there's only one team that plays away from home in Chelsea, who are up against Wolves. They are third with a 36% chance, but we've got Fulham in second, and that's probably the highest we'll see from them all season. Manchester United, Leeds and Brighton are between 4th and 6th position. Let me know if there are any other teams you would back for a clean sheet in GW25, and do you think any of these teams will keep one? Maybe even Sunderland. Who knows with football? It is a funny game. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both FPL and UCL Fantasy, and you will get more content there with the knockout phase playoffs returning very soon. Let's get this video in particular to over 100 likes. I'm closing on new goals like 39k subscribers on YouTube, and there is going to be my team selection for GW25, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And tomorrow there'll be a deadline stream covering every single question and providing injury updates, team news, the press conferences, and also showing any updates to the clean sheet odds. And the same goes for my top 10 captains, which you'll also see in that team selection podcast. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, fair likes to my videos, proud to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League and Spotify can also be found in the description. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. The wildcard enforces permanent changes to your FPL squad, and we've always had two per season, one between Gameweek 1 to 19 for the first half of the campaign, and then one for the second half of the season between Gameweeks 20 to 38. But in this season, we've had extra chips in terms of the bench boost, triple captain, and the free hit, which does change the landscape a little bit. And we do have a double Gameweek on the horizon in Gameweek 26. Arsenal will face Brentford away and Wolves away, whilst Wolves will face Nottingham Forest away and Arsenal at home. And Mane is the only player I'd consider from Wolves. And with Arsenal, I think a double or triple up is still viable, but Bukayo Saka will miss double Gameweek 26, and the aim is for him to be ready for the North London derby in Gameweek 27. So should we triple up on the Gunners defensively? Should we triple up, period? That's what I'll be answering in this video, and talking about other double or triple ups we might want to consider from other teams, and there will be more doubles and blanks later on in the season. So Gameweek 31 is one prime example where Arsenal and Wolves won't feature, and we could even see Man City blank in that Gameweek, and they will have a double later on in the campaign, potentially in Gameweek 36, for example. And Gameweek 33 is the other sort of notable Gameweek to look at, because that's going to be a major double Gameweek in the grand scheme of things. I'll start off with the two goalkeepers, and it's still going to be the same sort of list in terms of 3 or 4 top shot stoppers who are definitely worth the investment in this position. Jordan Pickford remains the highest scoring goalkeeper, but only just with 105 points. Ruth scored that clean sheet against Burnley. He's now only one behind, and I think those two are the clear standouts. You've also got David Raya, who you might want to go for, and that's your way of doubling up on the Arsenal defence, potentially even tripling up, as I mentioned earlier. I think that should still be considered, but I'll be talking about this when I cover the defensive line. I still think it's probably worth keeping one spot available for the attacking areas when it comes to the Gunners. And with Everton, Ndiaye has been attracting a lot of interest in the FPL community recently, but I talked about him in my transfer tips. I think he's worth skipping. Branthwaite is back, and we saw Everton play him, Keane and Tarkowski simultaneously, but that might not be the case moving forwards. I think Pickford is the safest way to cover Everton defensively, and he's going to be one of the highest scoring goalkeepers this season. If he's not first, he'll be second, and I think Ruffs and Raya will be the other main candidates for the best goalkeeper overall in this season. But when it comes to the backup, you don't need to go for Pickford and Ruffs. I think you're just going to have a lot of benching headaches, and also sometimes some frustrations, because you're going to leave some points on your bench. So Martin Dubravka will do just fine, and because Pickford costs 5.6 million already, you don't need to spend more than 10 million on this position. I'd rather diversify that and reinvest those funds in the outfield positions, particularly in the midfield, where we've got so many options now at our disposal. But even when it comes to the 5 defenders, we might want to go for 2 or 3 premiums, especially with Arsenal doubling in Gameweek 26. I completely understand the sort of temptation to go different if you're chasing a mini league rival or you want to make some significant rises in terms of the leaderboards, but Gabriel is the best defender in the game. I wouldn't complicate it, and he might even be the best captaincy option for double Gameweek 26, which sounds mad on paper, but in plenty of my videos this season, Gabriel has been highlighted as a top 10 captaincy option, not just for FPL, but also UCL Fantasy. And up next is Sunderland at home. And you saw Arsenal's clean sheet odds earlier in this podcast. They are extremely high, and we might even back them for another one in Double Gameweek 26, potentially even two of them, depending on how they set up in those matches. But Arsenal have been a bit shaky defensively since October, where they were imperious. They didn't concede a single goal across all competitions, but things have changed since then. Against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup semi-final, I didn't like their approach, but they got the job done, and they limited Chelsea to very few opportunities, and a lot of their efforts were from outside the box. Gabriel is by far the best Arsenal option, period. Even with Declan Rice in mind, he is certainly worth considering in the midfield. And when it comes to defenders, I think Jurrien Timber is the second best Arsenal option, and he is third in terms of FPL points scored amongst defenders for a reason. I think Chalobah might be better for the next 3 gameweeks specifically, but I think Timber is worth it with Double Gameweek 26 in mind. And speaking of which, I'm still going for Chalobah and that Chelsea defensive coverage, but I'm a bit hesitant about them in the longer term. They've got some tough fixtures in Gameweeks 27 and 8, for example. So they've got Arsenal and Aston Villa back-to-back. So that'll be in Gameweek 28 and 29. I would be quite wary about that, but Chalobah, facing Wolves away next, has a very high ceiling. He can also score from set pieces. He's very good for defensive contributions and bonus points as well. You've got Robert Sanchez in goal and potentially a Reece James, but he missed the game against Arsenal, and the injuries are always going to be a concern with him, and there will be rotation between him and Malo Gusto. Sometimes they'll play simultaneously, but you can't really count on it. But with Chalobah, he starts virtually every single Premier League match, and that's why he makes it into this team. I would go for one budget defender from Sunderland, and depending on your budget, you could go for Alderete or Mukiele, but with my funds in mind, I've gone for the 4.1 million Paraguayan central defender, and Ballard is yet another option you might want to consider. He's got the highest goal-scoring potential. Now, there is one downside to this team. I always talk about this when analysing structures. I'm not a big fan of having 2 budget defenders because it might remove some flexibility, but when I'm looking at the more expensive defenders right now, Mickey van der Ven is doubtful, and Tottenham are very inconsistent defensively. You could go for Mark Gay at 5.2 million to cover Man City, but they look very shaky defensively, and they always concede a number of big chances, even with the introduction of Gay into their side. And you've got Marcus Senesi from Bournemouth. They are near the top of the FDR over the next 5 gameweeks, but you could cover the Cherries defensively with Hill, who costs 3.9 million. And what this allows you to do is have 3 premium defenders in Gabriel, Timber, and Chalobah, the best goalkeeper in the game, arguably, in Jordan Pickford, and you can spend even more money in the midfield. And this is where the vast majority of the points will be at. Declan Rice has blanked in 4 consecutive matches, but he got that assist against Chelsea. I don't think he played particularly great. He did win the official Player of the Match award, but I think Rice is a brilliant player, very consistent, and he can get defensive contributions, plenty of assists from set pieces, and the occasional one from open play. And he can add a few goals to his game. He's been doing that for the last couple of seasons, and at Arsenal, he has gone to another level. So he is the complete midfielder, and in FPL terms, I think this is the best triple up for the Gunners. Gabriel, Timber, and Declan Rice. I wouldn't mind a triple up defensively with Raya in goal for the next 2 gameweeks specifically, but then Arsenal will face Tottenham and Chelsea back-to-back. Despite their brilliant records against both of their London rivals, you'd still back them to probably concede a goal in those games, especially against Chelsea. But then again, I think with Arsenal, they have looked imperious defensively all season, and I think sometimes they step up against the tougher teams when it comes to their clean sheet output, and it's never a guarantee or easy to predict when they're going to do so. But Declan Rice is going to be the best midfielder for sure, and you've also got some options up front, but I think it's just better to stick with Declan Rice for the consistency. He is third for FPL points scored amongst midfielders. He was recently surpassed by Bruno Fernandes, who also makes it into this team. He is the best midfielder to buy right now in Fantasy Premier League, and I've been talking about this for several weeks now since he returned from injury against Burnley, and I should have bought him before he faced Man City, where I was confident he would return, but I looked at that Arsenal game and I thought, Fernandes could blank in that game, so I'm going to avoid him for now, and that was the wrong decision with hindsight. The third midfielder is going to be from Man City in Antoine Semenyo. He has a brilliant goal-scoring record since joining the club across all competitions, and he will feature for them in the knockout stages of the Champions League. We'll see what his price is in UCL Fantasy and his position. Will he be a midfielder or a forward? But in this game, he is a midfielder. He costs 7.8 million, and he's the highest scoring player overall with 137 points. And Bruno Fernandes is catching up. I think the Portuguese midfielder will pip him to become the best in this position, but Semenyo will still be right up there. He cost 7.8 million, and a move from Rodgers to Semenyo is very tempting for my FPL setup, but not this week when they're facing Liverpool away from home. Now, Bruno Guimaraes has been brilliant all season, but I'm not going to go for him. The same goes for Harry Wilson, who offers great value at 6.1 million, but Enzo Fernandez is my favourite Chelsea midfielder right now, with Cole Palmer not getting those consistent starts, and the groin issues have been very persistent all season. And Enzo scored that last-minute winner against West Ham. He took a stop off and got booked, but he's decent for bonus points. He won't get you too much in terms of defensive contributions, but there will be the odd game where he gets you something, and it's going to be mainly goals and assists. His underlying numbers are incredible for a 6.8 million midfielder, and he's also on penalties when Palmer isn't on the pitch. So I think Enzo is a brilliant option, and he's certainly worth the investment as well. But instead of Wilson and Garner, I'm going for a different budget midfielder who only costs 5.3 million in Elliot Anderson, who is averaging 5 points or more over the last 4 game weeks, and he is offering defensive contributions and bonus points. He got 7 points in Game Week 24, despite not scoring or assisting. That goes to show what a quality player he is. He had a brilliant performance in that match, and I think Anderson is by far the best Nottingham Forest asset in FPL this season, and I don't think you need to spend too much money in terms of your 5th midfielder or on all your 8 attackers, because you will have some benching headaches as well. And a player like Anderson is fixture proof. He can do very well against Arsenal. Back in January, he got 5 points. So I think Anderson is a very sensible pick in the midfield. And up front, we've got some big hitters here and a very decent budget pick in the game. With 8 league goals this season, Krupi Jr. has been outstanding at 4.7 million. He's only had 10 starts, but that's only increasing now with the injuries to Tavernier and Kluivert. So I think Krupi will start the vast majority of games this season, and as your 3rd forward and 8th attacker, he could be a perfect rotation with the likes of Elliot Anderson, Harry Wilson, or Garner in the midfield. And I think this week you could start him against Aston Villa. I think both teams will score in that game, and Krupi is one of the most likely from the Bournemouth side of things, and I think he also complements the other options very well. Erling Haaland is one of them, despite his recent downturn in form. We saw him score against Galatasaray in the Champions League, but over the last 10 matches, he has 2 goals, and one of them was from the penalty spot. So it's definitely not Haaland's best stretch by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Haaland will get back to goal-scoring ways fairly soon. He got the assist against Tottenham, but missed a huge chance to put them 2-0 up at the time, and City will be very disappointed to let that 2-0 lead slip. It's very unlike them and uncharacteristic of that Pep Guardiola side. But they also reached the Carabao Cup final after beating Newcastle 3-1 on the night and 5-1 on aggregate, so they can still reach very high levels, especially offensively, and Haaland will get back on the scoring sheet very soon. But there are some slight concerns because Marmoush, in 2 starts against Wolves and Newcastle, has scored on both occasions, so there could be more rotation for Erling Haaland on the way. And against Liverpool up next, some people are even considering benching Haaland, and Man City's record at Anfield is pretty dreadful, to say the least. But the last forward went up in price overnight to 7.5 million, and that's Joao Pedro. He is in the podium, just behind Thiago and Haaland, for the best forwards in the game so far this season, and only 5 forwards have scored 100 points or more, the other 2 being Jarrod Bowen and Ekitike. And Ekitike also went up in price overnight. You could consider him as well, but I think this is a very balanced structure. It does say I'm 0.8 million over budget, but you're going to see, using the website FPL.team, that I've got 0.1 in the bank. So it's not much to play with, and some people watching might not have enough money to afford this exact 50-man squad, and others will have even more funds at their disposal, and that's where we can talk about some possible upgrades in each position. The expected points, according to the website FPL.team, is quite low at 50.6, and it's worth correcting. I've actually got 0.9 million in the bank, but there is one midfielder that I'm very tempted to buy, and I'll talk about him in the next couple of minutes because I think he could be a great option over the next couple of game weeks, and he has 6 goals over the last 10 matches, so he is showing very promising form. And between the sticks, there is certainly a debate between Dubravka facing West Ham at home and Pickford away to Fulham. I'm opting for Pickford right now, and I think the Everton shot stopper would start in most match days. Timber and Gabriel would complete an Arsenal defensive double-up, with Declan Rice completing the triple-up overall. Chalobah, Enzo and Joao Pedro facing Wolves away looks very promising, but there could be rotation for Chelsea over the next couple of game weeks. Bruno Fernandes as the captain facing Tottenham. You're going to see my top 10 list in the team selection video. and Anderson away to Leeds. Antoine Semenyo is first on the bench facing Liverpool away, and I put Krupi Jr. in the starting 11 facing Aston Villa at home. Now with Erling Haaland, he's got the vice at the moment, but I'll be honest, I'd rather go for a Chelsea option like Joao Pedro there. Hill and Alderete complete the 50-man squad, and they've got tough fixtures on paper. I would expect them to blank, and as you can see, there is room for manoeuvre in terms of my funds, and one midfielder I'd be very tempted with is Florian Wirtz, and one of Declan Rice or Semenyo could make way for him, and I think in this case, it would be Antoine Semenyo, but I still like the Ghanaian winger as an FPL asset. His overperformances haven't been particularly great, but he's getting the goal output, and that's the most important when it comes to FPL. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which midfielder would you sacrifice to sort of fit in Florian Wirtz, and would you even go for that sort of thing? I backed Florian Wirtz for several years in terms of UCL fantasy, and this season I was quite surprised by how poor he was at Liverpool, but he has improved over time, and since December he has shown more consistency with goals and assists also being provided. So we are starting to see Florian Wirtz adapt to the Premier League, and next season he could be one of the very best options in the game. And would you start him against Man City, maybe over Erling Haaland in this case, or Elliot Anderson? But I think with this team you've got squad depth, you've also got a lot of room for manoeuvre. And what would you do with the extra funds, for example? So between Florian Wirtz and Semenyo, that's a very close call. And I think with Declan Rice, for example, you could even sell him after Double Gameweek 26, even though against Tottenham and Chelsea, he could provide returns. He just did it a couple of days ago against the Blues. So Rice is very consistent and fixture-proof, and it's very difficult to drop one of these midfielders. But no matter what you do, don't sell Bruno Fernandes. That's all I can really say. And if you want that second Manchester United option, either Bryan Mbeumo or Matheus Cunha would be the way to go. I wouldn't buy one of them at the expense of Bruno. And up front, I think Ekitike would certainly enter the equation, and you might also want Igor Thiago after the next two matches against Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. But we just saw Newcastle ship in 3 goals against Man City, and also Igor Thiago scored a brace against them in the reverse fixture. So I wouldn't mind starting Thiago this week. I've got a major benching dilemma for my team selection. You're going to see that very soon, and I think there could be a big name drop here for Gameweek 25, and the same applies with this 50-man squad. Daniel Munoz in that defensive line could also be a consideration, but I think Palace have been awful defensively, and for the last couple of months, they just haven't gotten the results whatsoever. And in terms of other goalkeepers, Rufus and Raya are the main standouts. For the next 3 gameweeks in particular, I think Robert Sanchez is fine, but he would be the 4th best goalkeeper in the game. And with Arsenal, I would just stick with Timber and Gabriel. I think Hincapié is fine, but we could see Calafiori start once he is fully fit and he's got that match sharpness about him. With Chelsea, I think Chalobah is the best way to cover their defence, and Robert Sanchez is the alternative in goal. And in the midfield, one other option would be Cole Palmer, actually, but I would want to see more consistency from him in terms of starts, and even with the goal contributions, we haven't seen that, particularly from open play. So I think with the midfield is quite interesting. Mbeumo would definitely have a shout of entering this team. Antoine Semenyo or Wirtz is a big decision to make, but because of Arsenal's double gameweek in 26, I would opt for Declan Rice at this moment in time. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both FPL and UCL fantasy. Let's get this video in particular to over 100 likes and closing on new goals like 39k subscribers on YouTube. Follow me on X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, fair likes to my videos, proud to add to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you very soon for the Gameweek 25 team selection, and keep your eyes peeled for the deadline stream.